Being extended and having a little bit more security now for you, what does that mean, and what were those conversations like with John and the
First of all, I just want to thank John for his trust in our front office and the things we're doing together. I mean, we have a incredibly good relationship with a shared vision, and it comes from him, and understanding what's important to him is important to us. I mean, that's our boss, you know. But I think what's great about John, he's a great listener. There's times where he's going to be more curious than others, but he's outstanding. You can bounce ideas off of him. Same can be said for Brooke Sherman and Sarah Torville. They're all just great to work with. So just the fact that they trust our front office to move forward is a compliment to not me, but to everybody that works for us. So I'm just happy we're going to get time to keep doing and building and ultimately just have a consistent winner over many years.
And to keep Q in place.
Yeah. Q's been outstanding. You know, Q pushes us all the time. He talking about another person that listens extremely well. He's curious. He causes us to think and rethink things, and that's refreshing. And we have a great relationship. I'm happy. You know, he's going to be here for another year, and certainly expect him to be here longer than that. So, happy for him as well.
To have like stability like that, and you asked John about it too, but what do you think it says about the organization and kind of what you guys are building?
Yeah, I think it speaks to the continuity that we have. It was kind of a fast and furious first year where we're getting to learn about each other a little bit more. Really probably June of 23. Is where I feel like we grew even closer to understand what his vision is, and it gave us an opportunity to prepare for the off season. I think it was a really important time during those months, June, July, August, to set the vision of the organization, not just in our front office, but scouts, coaches, trainers, strength coaches, the list goes on. And we had an opportunity to do that early in October, and I think it really paid off well. But really it starts with that relationship between John and I, and then the relationship between Q and I, so we can carry it all out.
What have you learned over the past, 2+ years, almost 3, about being in this job?
Yeah, there's a lot of things. I mean, we could talk for a while on that. I think the thing that stands out is how fragile things can be. 1 year it's a tough year. The following year, we do a few things where we have a successful year. And as well as last year went, we got to remind ourselves we got into the playoffs by 1 game. And it was really just through a tough week, the ups and downs of a week in Cleveland, moving on to Houston, that just speaks to how fragile your season can be. You got to do a lot of things to get through the season. Number one, stay healthy, and that's really not something we can control. We all have a lot of faith in our training staff, our strength and conditioning staff to keep guys healthy and available. But injuries are a part of it. So I think more than anything, you just got to be ready to adapt and move and push. I think the other thing that's worth mentioning is just the importance of depth in your organization. You never have enough pitching, but you never have enough players. And I think when Vinny went down last year, that was kind of a key moment. And within a couple days, we were able to add 3 different people to our roster. It's that kind of tone that we want to set, that we're never going to settle. We're going to keep pushing because there's an expectation to win ball games and to serve our fan base the best we can.
You guys added a lot to your R&D department last season, and how important is the analytical aspect of that as for you being the general manager and getting stuff there?
It's very important. I think something that people don't realize, they're the one department that touches every single department around baseball operations, from athletic training to the amateur draft, to what we do internationally, to what we do in player development, to what we do in our game day operations. It's really vast how many people they touch. And it's really the only department we have that has that many branches and reaches so many people. So to build that out properly takes time. A lot of credit goes to Daniel Mack with his vision and being able to educate us on how we can do this effectively. I think the hiring process is outstanding. Ryan Made is a big part of that, and Ryan does a great job in building out our interview processes, because ultimately all we're trying to do is lead, and the only way we can do it is if we have good people running departments, and that keeps going further down through each and every department. But the hiring process is a difficult one, but when you hire well, from our standpoint, we should be generalists. We have areas of strength and areas of weakness, but our job as a front office to provide all the other departments chances to succeed. But it starts with the hiring process of who leads those departments, and the analytic department's a great example.
You just mentioned strengths and weaknesses. What is some strengths of this team do you believe this season, and what are some areas you want to kind of improve or want to see improvement?
Well, very, very similar last year. Our strength is, I think, clearly in our pitching staff. Our starting rotation's deep, our bullpen's deep, and that's where it all starts. They control the game. They take a lot of pressure off the offense, and I think from an offensive standpoint, I think we produced well last year. There's always room for improvement there, but we have to keep reminding ourselves some of our guys are still young, second, third years in the big leagues, and you just look across the history of the game, hitters take a little while to develop, and we got to be patient, and we got to give them those opportunities. But if the pitchers allow you to stay in games, then those hitters get an opportunity to develop and become great hitters.
What was the message to the team this morning to get them all in here and all get started?
Yeah, I mean, really, it's I'll just speak from my perspective. It's exciting. It's a privilege to get to do this job. It's an honor to serve our city. And the reminders from my standpoint are just play hard, play smart, play aggressive. We serve a fan base that's really important to our community. The more we win at the major league level, the more excited our community is. And sports is an outlet for people, and they want to root for their teams, whether it be the Royals, the Chiefs, Sporting KC, the Current. They drive the happiness in our city, and that's something we don't take lightly. Now, underneath that big vision, there's a lot of things that have to happen. The physical part, the mental part, they all have to happen, and that's where the people you see behind me, that's where they got to do their jobs, and the scouts are out there identifying players have to do their jobs. But ultimately, this is about serving Kansas City and putting a winner on the field consistently. So they're proud and they're excited. And last year, I think the message was, our city's hungry for a good team. And we need to bring it to them. This year, I think they feel like they have a good team. Now they're just hungry for opening day.
Last offseason, you guys had to fill a lot of spots through free agency. Coming into this offseason, not as many spots to fill because you guys made the postseason. Is that more complicated for you to only have a few spots to fill, or does it allow you to be more patient and maybe take your time a little bit more?
I would say this offseason was more difficult than last because we were more specific in what our needs were, and we were able to successfully execute some of that. We didn't get everything done. Where last year was more broad. We had to improve in the pitching area. We had to improve offensively. That's why we spent the money we spent. I think it was $110 million we committed. This year was more about retaining pitchers. Michael Walker clearly, and eventually Michael Lorenzen. They were two big pieces for us. And we committed $80 million this year. So that's a testament to John's commitment to this team and commitment to the city about how important it is to put a good product on the field. I think probably the greatest strength we have right now is the camaraderie and the feel that this team has. They take the field as one. They have the backs of the guy to the right, guy to the left. That's as satisfying as anything else.
Do you feel satisfied with where the roster's at right now? I know you still have time to condense it in a 26-man roster, but is it something where it's always ongoing where you're trying to add?
Yeah, that is an ongoing thing. I mean, there's going to be several moves made across the course of the season. But for where we are right now, going into opening day on March 27th, we are happy with our roster. But we have to be prepared. Things are going to happen in spring training. There's going to be guys that get hurt. There's going to be guys that don't perform. There's still some competition going on. And we'll just continue to push. There's going to be players that become available throughout spring training. But the group that we have a lot of faith in, and we feel like we're in a position of strength when it comes to the depth of our roster.
When you look at this outfield, a lot of guys might be playing new spots. Massey, India, maybe Michael Garcia gets some run out there. Is that something that will be sorted out in camp, or do you kind of have an idea right now as to who do you want to be out there?
It's going to be sorted out in camp. The conversations that Q and myself have had with the players, we've been very transparent. I think the big one is, Michael Massey and Jonathan India are infielders, and we're asking them to do something that they're probably, I know Jonathan's done it a little bit, but not in games, to get a little bit uncomfortable. But the message we're getting back from them we just want the team to win. Whatever I can do, I just want to be a part of it. But it's going to take some sorting out. It's one thing to say so-and-so is going to play left field or so-and-so is going to play third base, but you got to see him do it, and then we'll make more of an educated decision, a well-informed decision on what's best for us.
How complex is that with all the moving parts and guys learning new positions and making sure they all get their work in?
It is complex, and and again, Q did a great job in working with Jose Agassil, Damon Hollins, about how do we want the work to look for Jonathan and Michael in particular, and Michael Garcia. So we've got a plan that we think is going to work. We got to get a lot of work in these first 10 to 12 days before we really start getting deep into the spring training season, and that's all just preparation. Proper footwork, things that fundamentally an outfielder needs to do, and they're good athletes, so they'll pick up on it pretty quickly. But then getting them some game action as well. But the planning is important. The workload's important. The volume of throwing that we're going to do, we have to monitor extremely well. How much they're on their feet, how many meters are they running per day. We're going to have to monitor all of those things, because the last thing we want is to injure somebody trying to rush them into a new position and learn it. So we do have to be careful, and it's going to be constant communication between the medical staff, S&C, and our coaching staff.
With MJ specifically, I know he's learning, or he's learned the outfield. He's an outfielder now. What has stood out about his swing this spring?
Well, he's just calmed things down. I take things with a grain of salt early in camp when they start facing more live pitching, and you see some reps with a kind of a revamped swing and approach to hitting. You got to give it some time, and I think the message that was sent to MJ is, hey, you got to stick with this. If it doesn't work for a couple of days, then let's not panic. You did it for good reason. We believe in what he's doing, and the work he's doing has been great. We're seeing it. It's very obvious to us. It's visible. Just watch him take BP and a couple swings live that he's committed to it, and that happens. George Brett spoke this morning about how Charlie Liddell sat him down in All-Star break and said, hey, you got to commit to this or you're not going to figure it out. And obviously George did. So, but it's that type of commitment that MJ's made so far, and we're just going to encourage him to stick with it because we believe what he's doing is right.
Did he drive that
Yes.
this offseason?
Yeah, there's discussions between Zumi and Joe Dillon and Keone. So we were on the same page. It's a similar message that has been sent over a couple years, and sometimes it just takes players courage. Just get the courage to try something different. MJ was at a point where he was ready to try something different. And I think with that, the more he sticks with it, has a little bit of success, his confidence will grow, and we do believe it's something that will make him a better hitter.
And getting him back to being a consistent hitter like you've seen before, what does that do for your lineup?
It's big. MJ, I think we all know how we feel about MJ's tools. He can be a very impactful player. He's the one skill that he has that's different, or tool that he has is different. When he hits the ball to left field, he drives the ball through left center field, and I can count on one hand, maybe not even reach five, how many left-handed hitters that we've seen that can drive the ball out to left center field. We don't want to talk to him about hitting home runs. We want him to drive balls through the gaps, but he's capable. And when you see a hitter do that, for short periods of time, it's in there, and you just want to get it out on a more consistent basis. But he can be very impactful on this team.
How confident are you in Hunter Renfroe's return now that he's fully healthy coming off of last season?
Yeah, he looks great. He's dropped some weight. That was his own choice to do so. He did great work this offseason. You go back, and I don't want to make excuses for Hunter, and he's not going to make excuses, but he got off to a slow start here in spring training with some nagging type of things, and then he eventually got going and had a good run where his OPS was well over 800, and then had a few other nagging injuries. So hopefully a little bit of the dropped weight, a little bit change, and whatever he wanted to work on this offseason will allow him to have the success that he's had in the past. And, we believe when we evaluated the free agent market on right-handed hitting outfielders, he compares exceptionally well with the available hitters that were out there. So Hunter's very capable, and that would be a huge boost to our offense for him to get going again.
when you look at somebody like Jack Caglione, you know the power's there, but what are you hoping to see from him this year to prove that he can maybe move up the ranks rather quickly?
Yeah, I mean, our philosophy on first-year players, you got to let them play. And I know he played a little bit last year, but we're not going to get crazy with trying to change anything with Jack. Jack has a really good idea of what he wants to do as a hitter. He talks about it very publicly, about shrinking the strike zone and being more selective. Once he does that, he impacts the baseball as well as anybody we've scouted over a number of years. And that's really just developing as a hitter. And we just got to give him time. You know, he's going to go through ups and downs just like everybody else does. But he's extremely talented, and you know, the idea of him just hitting and putting pitching aside and playing first base only, we're trying to simplify things for him. You know, he's the first player that we've had in Major League camp in their first Major League spring training in a very, very long time. But that's how strongly we feel like he could impact the major leagues. We don't want to rush him. We don't want to put on it, expectations on him. It's got to be by a certain time. We just got to let him play, and we'll know when he's ready to play in the big leagues.